Hey designers! If you're watching this video, you're probably just about to start your own double exposure portrait. This video is going to show you really quickly how to start your project and get it set up in Photopea, and then you can move on to using that tutorial video that we used last week in class for the practice activity. You're going to follow that same tutorial, those same steps, and use the same tools, but you'll just use your own images instead of the practice images. We're going to use Photopea as our editing program for this project. And Photopea is great because it's so similar to Adobe Photoshop and some of the other Adobe programs. So if you're able to use Photoshop in the future, you'll have a lot of great background knowledge by using Photopea. One thing to remember that's super, 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 super important about Photopea is that it's a web-based program. So if you have trouble with Wi-Fi, or just from time to time, the program will kind of freeze up or close out. This just happens from time to time. It's just the nature of the program. And so it's really important to save your work often when you're working in Photopea. You can do this by going up to File, Save, or you can use the shortcut of Control S. So get in the habit of clicking Control S every couple of minutes after every few steps that you do of editing in the program. This way, if your Wi-Fi cuts out or if the program freezes, you don't lose very much of your work. It's just a habit that we're going to have to create. Just click Control S, every few minutes. I actually have a sticky note that I keep up right next to my computer, and it just says Save in really big letters and Control S underneath. So maybe you want to make a reminder like that for yourself, a note next to your computer. That way, every time you look at that note, you can quickly press Control S and save your work. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So we're just going to click this option right here to start a new project in the middle of the screen. And the very first thing we want to do is name our project. So we're looking in the top left-hand corner where we see the word name. And this is our double exposure portrait. So that's exactly what we're going to name it. Double exposure portrait. Our width and height, we want our width and height to be somewhere around 1000 pixels. So if you want your project to be a square, like the example image that I created, then you can set your width and height both to be 1000 pixels. You can make sure that you have pixels selected up here. So you can also create, you could use inches or millimeters. We're going to stick to pixels. And remember, pixels are basically like the tiny little dots on your screen that make up an image. So set that width and height somewhere near 1000 by 1000. If you want your image to be a little bit taller than it is wide, like a standard portrait, you could set your height to either 1200 or 1300, and that will make it a little bit taller, like a rectangle instead of a square. Your DPI is fine if it's set at 72, and I would leave your background white because we can change this later, so it's good if you see a white background. Go ahead and click Create once your settings match what you see here. And now we're ready to begin. So at this point, you can jump into that practice video tutorial that I created last week. You're going to follow those same steps, but you're just going to use your own two images. So you're using that portrait image of either yourself, a friend, or a family member, and whatever image you want to combine with it. If you need to change your canvas size or your image size as you work, maybe you realize you do want a rectangle instead of a square, you can do that by going up to Image and Canvas Size. Image and Canvas Size. And then you can change your height and width. So maybe you do need to change your height to 1300. Now I've got a rectangle instead. And don't worry too much right now about this is just saying that there's no background here yet. We can always adjust that later. So if you need to change your canvas size, go up to Image and Canvas Size, and you can change your number of pixels for your width and height. Remember to save often as you work. At this point, you're going to go back into that practice tutorial and have fun creating.